Broadcast. Dinosaurs connected. Initiating broadcast signal in
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ladies, gentlemen, and knights of the Nerd World Order, this is the Nerd World Order broadcast. I am the man that you call Dukes, and to my right, it's all about the
Booyah! What's up? It's your boy Joe, baby.
And to my other right, check the map, and you might find that he's coming straight out of Krakoa, weighing in at 178 adamantium-filled pounds. Alfonso X-Man Flores.
Hello there.
Ladies, gentlemen, and knights of the Nerd World Order, this is the Nerd World Order broadcast, and we are Nerds Redefined. Thanks for tuning in to this live episode of the Nerd World Order broadcast. Today, we're going to be discussing a show that a lot of people liked, and that's going to be Obi-Wan. That's what we're talking about today. Gentlemen, let me start off with a general question. Do you guys consider yourselves Star Wars fans?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, Alfonso, what was your first exposure to Star Wars?
Oh man. So I don't know, man. I'm like maybe 5 or 6 is my earliest memory of Star Wars. I remember being at a drive-in movie theater in Bullhead City, Arizona, sitting in the back of my mom's car. Actually, it was an Eldorado, and I was in the back of whatever that is, like the bed, like a truck, you know? And we had our little blankets and our chairs, and we're sitting there, and I just remember my brother, like, shaking me, like, well, you got to see this. Look at it. Oh, man, it was awesome. Yeah, so I was hooked as soon as I saw it. And from then on, I'm, like, throwing ropes on things and swinging from here to there, trying to grab someone to go with me, but
so let me get this straight, Alfonso. They had lightsabers, they had guns, they had the Force, and the thing you wanted to do was swing on a rope.
I wanted to grab Carrie Fisher and swing from a rope and save her. I don't know. Maybe it was Indiana Jones and me.
Yeah, well, I guess I can respect the wanting to, swing on a vine with Carrie Fisher part. So you get a pass, my bro. Joe, first exposure to Star Wars.
My mom used to buy me Star Wars toys. So that was pretty much my first exposure. And I vaguely remember watching Star Wars when I was super young. But I remember I watched Empire Strikes Back in Okinawa. But the movies were, in that time, it took 3 years for any American movie to get to Okinawa on the base. And so by the time I watched Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi was already out in the States. And so I remember I watched that, and then we ended up moving back here to the States. And I remember one of my mom's friends had a bootleg copy. See, kids don't understand back in the day.
They don't know.
It was super illegal. You couldn't stream anything, but you had like people with those camcorders that were like really big that just sit on the shoulder that you would record. And I remember they had recorded Return of the Jedi, and I was like, oh, I need to watch that. And he's like, oh, the copy's not good, but like when you're like, I don't know, man, I think we're maybe 10, you don't care. You're like, I just want to watch it. And I remember I watched Return of the Jedi then. So I was pretty huge fan, growing up.
Yeah,
For me, I would have to say for me, it was actually like mid-90s when I saw all 3 of the Star Wars movies. There's like this movie, I can't remember the name of the movie theater. It was like Nickelodeon. It was Nickelodeon theaters, and they had like this special, like you could watch all 3 and have unlimited popcorn. So I sat down and watched all 3.
Nice.
Have unlimited popcorn. By the way, Replica Pro Wrestling, what's up? Thanks for tuning in to the Nerd World Order broadcast. Yeah, so that wasn't really too much into Star Wars, probably until The Force Awakens. Yes, I'll admit it, until The
Wow.
Force Awakens. Yeah, just didn't appeal to me. So when you guys were excited about Obi-Wan, I was like, man, I don't care about no Obi-Wan. But I know you guys were pumped, and I didn't understand why. So that's what we're going to be discussing today, the Obi-Wan series. We already discussed episodes 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to be discussing overall what we thought of the entire series. Let's get started with talking about, let's say, some ancillary characters, gentlemen. We'll just define them as the rebels. They don't have any part of the Force. They're not necessarily Inquisitors, and they're not necessarily Sith. They're just people on the sidelines. The rebels, we'll call them. What'd you guys think of the rebels in this show?
I think they had a pretty good, strong showing. I mean, the people in the street. You had Roken, of course. You could tell he's going to be some kind of general later. Ice Cube's son. Nothing wrong with that. Him and Obi-Wan, they had some conversations where he's like, they're going to be needing leaders. And he's like, oh, I'm just getting started. So, who knows? He might have his own spinoff. He might show up in, one of the other shows like Andor. No, Andor was before. Anyways, so yeah, I could see him showing up. He's kind of a big name. I really see him popping up here and there. You had Tala Jarrah. She wasn't a moth, was she? She wasn't a moth. She was moth. She was just one of the higher ranking people in the Empire, and she was the one kind of turncoat, and she saved Obi-Wan and Leia from that guy who was trying to turn him in. She helped with the Underground Railroad thing. Dude, that was super sweet. And then, of course, our favorite Haja, the fake Jedi. At first, he didn't start off as a rebel, but after doing his little Jedi parlor tricks that he was doing, and he kind of got recruited because he had no place else left to go. So they brought him aboard, and he's like, "I'm down with it." So that's as far as the rebels go. I mean, those are the main three that stood out to me. I don't know if any others stood out to you or what you guys think of those ones.
When it comes to Roken, he's an interesting character. The problem in general with let's say having things that happen in between other things is, it's like, okay, cool, we like him, but how come nobody talks about him later? Which means he's going to have to go Rogue One style, right? Something's going to happen to him, or he pops up. What would be really cool is if he pops up later, right? But okay, this is just some fanfic here. He pops up later, but he's like 40 years older, and he's being played by Ice Cube. How dope would that be? That would be sick.
That would be dope. That would be really dope. It would be dope. I'm down with that. Where'd you go? I love you so.
So what about you, Joe? What'd you think
yesterday? I love you so. Remember that song or no?
Yeah, no.
You never heard of Fort Minor?
No.
Dude, they had that big song, dude.
Yeah, I was really into R&B hip hop like through the 80s, and then when the 90s hit, I started getting the What happened?
I don't know. Like you were like muted and I was muted.
We're experiencing technical difficulties.
Yes, sir.
Checking for text.
Yeah, no, but Fort Minor was with Limp Bizkit, bro.
Oh, really? I know Limp Bizkit. So since we're here, what do you?
No, not Limp Bizkit, not Linkin Park. My bad.
Oh, Linkin Park. Gotcha. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the rebels? Haja, Roken, Tala Jarrah?
I don't know. Where's Duke's at?
But we're live. We got to keep talking.
Yeah, true that. What I have an issue with is, well, it's not really so much an issue, but everything like if you watch the Rebels, all that stuff takes place around the same time. It's like right in between 5 years in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the universe is such a big, big place because if you look at the Underground Railroad that they had right there,
Mm-hmm.
all those Jedis that escaped and went somewhere, those are like a lot of stories that because the galaxy is big and empires everywhere, so you're doing fights no matter where they're at,
Right.
no matter what planet you're on. So there's so many different stories that you could do with the Jedis that did escape, as well as Ice Cube's son's character.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't necessarily have to be in the same vicinity as the current, Star Wars, area where everyone was fighting. He could be somewhere else. And I think that's how you can create different stories. That was dope. The other part that me and Alan both agree that we both kind of agree on is Dahlia, the way she died was just pointless. Because if I had bombs like that, I'm going to throw it. I'm not going to get shot before I decide to ignite the bomb.
Right.
So for me, I'm like, that didn't make sense. I thought she died pointlessly with her robot. But the Rebels is pretty good. It's just the beginning stages of what I like about it is like Haja, like nowhere he didn't have any plans to be in the Rebels. And through circumstances, that's how Rebels all form is a lot of people getting together for a common goal to help each other out and get rid of the Empire.
Yeah. What about you, Dukes? You got any more on the Rebels?
On the Rebels, let's see here. So we talked about no, I think we've covered it. Well, okay. I do have a, I felt like when the Rebels escaped on their backup ship, I was kind of like, I don't know, man. Like, I just didn't feel it, like I just felt like the whole thing was kind of goofy. Like Vader can sense like Obi-Wan, but it's like someone's playing like 3-card Monty in Vegas, right? And they're moving around the little cups there, and you're like, which cup is it, man? Which cup is it, right? And then Vader was like, it's that cup. And he was like, nah, flies away. I was like, how did you not pick the right cup? You're Darth Vader, bro.
His anger clouded his judgment.
Bro, I was like, there was 2 ships there? Like, what?
Yeah, and it's like, it's not like Kenobi was like, that's his go-to move. I know he's going to do it. I mean, has he ever seen him do that before? I mean, I haven't seen a lot of the cartoons, but I have seen some. I've never seen Anakin pull that off. So how did he know?
Well, it's interesting because this Vader, and we'll get to Vader in a little bit. I guess I'm jumping ahead, but he just seemed a lot more powerful. But I'm going to leave that alone. We'll discuss that later. But Derek Murray pops in.
Hey,
Derek coming. Normally Derek's like really positive, right? But here's what he said, because he's all about the writing and all that. He says it's not good from a narrative standpoint. It's poor execution that desperately tries to cram itself into the canon, but the end makes everything worse. I disagree, Derek. Good moments don't make a good series. Yes, they do. And we need to be willing to admit that a few dope lightsaber battles, that's all you need is Star Wars, Derek. It's Star Wars. That's what it's about, is lightsabers. Okay? It's not called like gun battle wars. It's called Star Wars because they got lightsabers, Derek. That's what it's all about. Okay? Anyway, lightsaber battles don't make up for bad story. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Come on, Derek. You can make up for some bad writing with a good action scene. Thank you, Marvel.
Bro, shout out to Derek, but and Derek, I rarely ever agree with Alan. But bro, Kung Fu movies, I've always said this. If it's some good fight scenes in a Kung Fu movie, I could care less about the story. So the ending of that lightsaber scene more than makes up for the whole series for me.
there's Kevin Smith does a podcast with a guy named Mark Bernardin, and Mark Bernardin says, he's this really big time Entertainment Weekly movie reviewer. He said Star Wars, all in all the Star Wars movies, they're not great movies. They're good movies. They're not great movies, but they have moments. They have these moments that just stand out and may leave you in awe, and that's what you think about all the time. And you can get by with moments. I think Star Wars has been really successful with that. I agree with that. I wonder what Dukes has to think about that.
Tell you what I have to think about that. I was just completely like awestruck by what Derek had to say. I was speechless. But we love you too, Derek. Thanks very much for watching the broadcast, my bro. And yeah, dude, it's very rare that Derek does poo-poo on something. Great article, by the way, for Black Phone, I believe. It's pretty dope. So I read that today. So nice article, Derek. Dude, Derek came in just trying to torpedo the entire conversation. And we had a bot over in YouTube promising us sexy time. I was like, simmer down, bot. You're not the droid I'm looking for, But yeah. Alfonso, you bring up an excellent point, which is when you look back at Star Wars, like the movies, especially 1, 2, and 3, not the best writing, but episode 3 made up for it, right? 1 and 2, you're like, I hate this. But episode 3, you're like, dude, I'm in it now. And if you think about it, Derek Murray, that's exactly what happened with Obi-Wan, right? Because I admit, okay, I was watching like episode 2, 3, and 4, and I was like, okay, 3 and 4. And I was like, dude, this is kind of some hot garbage. Like, this is poorly written. These action scenes are kind of dumb. I don't understand what Obi-Wan is doing with all this force. But then that last episode, I was like, oh my god, dude, this is fire, man. This is all worth it. So yeah, there. You guys want to talk about the Jedi, since I haven't muted myself for the 100th time? I want to talk about the Jedi.
All right. So with the Jedis, we got a lineup of Kenobi, right? He's our main Jedi. Of course, Anakin's in there somewhat. But Luke and Leia, we're going to include them in this point of the conversation as well, just because they are the Jedis to be, right? The ones who will bring balance to the Force. They're always going to bring balance to this Force. All those Skywalkers, even the stolen valor one Rey. But so Kenobi, he starts off, he's done, like Joe says, he's ready to be the coach. He's not participating anymore, but he's going to teach Luke eventually how to work his lightsaber and whatnot. But then he gets a call from Bell Organa saying, I need some help. Red Hot Chili Peppers stole my daughter. She's just as important as Luke. Come on down. He's like, I can't do it. He's like, you got to do it. He's like, all right. So he went down. So he left Luke behind, and he went to go save Leia. He started off kind of weak. He wasn't really one with the Force, and the Force wasn't one with him anymore. But slowly but surely, he started to build that up again. And apparently all it takes is one hallway battle with a bunch of stormtroopers to remember exactly how to use the Force properly, because then he was ready to go. What do you guys think about that?
Well,
Joe.
here's the thing. when you rewatch like episode 4, right?
Right.
And she goes, hey, General Kenobi helped out my dad back in the day. And then they portray little Leia really smart, right? Even at the end where she says, hey, if I'm gonna be in charge, there's a few things I'm gonna have to change. Mm-hmm. Someone that's smart like that should remember Kenobi. But that's the bad thing about making these prequel type series, because you have to try your best to fit into the canon. And that's where it's tough, because Leia would have just said, hey, Obi-Wan, like, I need you again. You know what I mean? She wouldn't have said, hey, you served my dad in the Clone Wars, because she would have remembered getting kidnapped. And so that's the problem with when you do some prequel stuff like that, you run into those issues. So, I mean, when I see that, it's kind of tough because at first, I'm not gonna lie, like Helen's had said this before, like, no, I mean, we've all had young kids. My kids were small, but little kids on screen, it just can annoy you. And so, like the first few episodes, you're just like, oh my gosh. But then I get why they did it. But it's to correct. I want to say it's to correct the mistake because if you you have Luke, who's the main hero in the whole Star Wars series, right? Even though Leia did her part and she's just as powerful as far as like running the Senate and being in charge of the rebels, it doesn't really have a big impact as Luke does. But with this Obi-Wan series, what it does is it helps people understand how just as important Leia is to the movement of the rebels, and she's just as important as Luke is.
I had a thought about that too because I was thinking about that. It's like, help me, Obi-Wan, you're my only hope. And the whole little speech she gave there. R2 was a little dinged up. He could have lost some of the message. I honestly think that if they really should have given a little where Leia's like, the little Leia was like, you're my only hope. That would have been something I think would have been great because that would have, I know it may seem like lazy writing, but it would have shown that was kind of her go-to saying for him, But what do you think, Dukes?
I feel like the relationship between Leia and Ben Kenobi was well written, but I feel like if you take that relationship and you compare it to what we saw in episodes 4, 5, and 6, there's somewhat of a disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like, this is this guy who saved her life, and she kind of acts like she don't know him in 4, 5, and 6,
Mm-hmm.
So it's a well-written relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, this is really great, it's touching, but it's almost like it has to stand alone in its own separate universe in order for it to work,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I have to agree. It's great writing, great relationship, but does it connect very well? No.
Dude, here's the thing, bro. Like, the writing is so much better as far as like you watching the Obi-Wan series, you realize it looks like Obi-Wan has a better relationship with Leia than he did with Luke. And yeah, you did well for this Obi-Wan series, but what you did was you make episode 4 seem foolish. Like I said, like I was telling you guys both. I was rewatching some of these Star Wars movies, and the more you watch them, you're just doesn't make sense on a lot of this stuff. Because I'm like, yeah, I forgot Leia had literally kissed Luke on the lips. You know what I mean? To make Han jealous. And then 2 seconds later, hey, we're brothers and sisters. It's just like, wait, what? You just gonna like everyone just forgot about that? Like, how do you forget about that? So it's just stuff like that. Like, I'm a firm believer, bro. They should just reboot it. I think if you reboot 4, 5, and 6, you can whatever you make from here, you can tie into 4, 5, and 6, or scratch it and just start like from the old Republic, where it's like Jedi's against Sith, like how they do like in the video game that I used to play. It's just Jedi's against Sith in the beginning. If you create new characters in that time frame, you don't have to worry about the comparisons and fitting this canon with that canon. And that's the problem that Star Wars is running right now. Yeah, the writing is better and we're all happy for these extra series, but to make them connect what they kind of do, there's going to be some things where you just can't fix unless you reboot it or you scratch it and do some different new Star Wars that takes place way before.
Yeah, that's a bold statement, man. Go ahead,
Joe. I'm actually I'm gonna have to agree with our friend, Facebook user who remains anonymous, who says no reboots, man. I as much as I said I really didn't care for Star Wars when I was a kid because G.I. Joe, But I feel like there's just some things you shouldn't touch, you know?
Mhm.
Oh, very nice, very nice. I wore mine watching G.I. Joe this week. Yeah, I can't get in line with that. Now I do agree. I agree, but I disagree. Let me explain. Yeah, let's get away. If we create all these continuity errors because we're trying to stick with 4, 5, and 6, and everything that's built around that, and the fake Star Wars and the fake Skywalker that comes in episode 9, then by all means, let's just push that aside and move on to something else. But
Mhm.
here's the problem, my bro. Star Wars fans are already toxic. Okay, they already hate everything, bro. Do you remember how much people were complaining because they focused too much on Leia and on Rhea?
Mhm.
Right? Is it Rhea? Is it Rhea?
Riva.
Reva. There you go, Reva McEntire. Now I'll never forget it. But anyway, people were complaining about that. Oh my gosh, I didn't tune in to see this. I tuned in to see Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, even though I've been watching them for the past 40 years, bro. You've been watching it for 40 years and you're complaining because they look at something else for 5 minutes. Shut up, you little toxic Star Wars fans. So that's my thing, my bro. That's my thing. Yes, your idea is absolutely correct. Let's go after some new material. Marvel
Mhm.
is writing some new material. But what are they? But people are going to complain, dude, because Star Wars fans are toxic and lazy. But you're
Yeah,
100% right.
dude. Like if you didn't watch Rebels, but it's called there's a Bridger went into the worlds between worlds, and it's kind of like a multiverse. Not
Oh,
really a multiverse, but you can go to and from different times in a period. So I'm like, what like you could go in there and change some history that way, and make things different. But like to your point, I think people still probably complain about that. But you could fix a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, you could totally fix a lot of stuff doing that. And one thing, I got to back up for a moment because people accept the Mandalorian, but the Mandalorian's basically like a brand new character, right?
Yeah, that's why.
Right. So I think maybe Dave Filoni
Hmm.
and John Favreau could probably pull off bringing in new characters on the big screen.
They
And
could.
if you think about it, like, okay, what's the biggest complaint with, like, I'll just use Boba Fett as an example. It's not what we wanted. You waited too long to do it, right?
Hmm.
The Boba Fett we wanted is Mandalorian. We didn't need Boba Fett because we have Mandalorian now.
Hmm.
That's what we wanted to see from Boba Fett 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, bro, to your point, I'm backing up. I'm rescinding my previous observation.
Hmm.
You've convinced me.
Yeah.
New Star Wars universe headed by Favreau and Filoni.
Dude, you could reboot with those two dudes and they could do way better. Way better. And then not you could also check it. In that same time period as Luke and Leia, the Empire wasn't just where they were at fighting. They were across the whole galaxy.
yeah.
So even though that's where the Emperor is at and you did your damage there, you can do a story where you had the same type of characters, the same Jedis fighting different battles on different planets
Yeah.
with really good generals, or higher than a general, whatever you want to, like maybe a person that has almost as stature as an emperor, like maybe a number one. I'm doing Star Trek, but it's it's something like that where they're fighting them. Like Grand Admiral Thrawn in the Rebels
yeah.
was huge, especially in the books that I read too, where I personally thought, I can't remember his name, but he basically did 7, 8, 9 with Grand Admiral Thrawn as the villain. Way better than the movies that we watch. Way better. Grand Admiral Thrawn is such a good character that they brought him into Rebels. That's Dave Filoni doing his magic. And I think if you had that type of villain, you could do a new Star Wars in a different part of the galaxy. It doesn't have to necessarily, and you don't have to do your reboot. You can just start from scratch.
Exactly.
Toxic Star Wars fans can't say anything because it'll be like Mandalorian, like you said. And what do they got to compare it to other than other Star Wars movies?
See, That I agree with you completely, because that's exactly what I was thinking. It's like they don't need to reboot this. There's an entire galaxy of stars and wars, right? That's there's many battles in this Star Wars, right? So they don't need to reboot everything. They just don't need to focus on the Skywalkers. They don't need to focus on the Palpatines. They are a small piece of what's happening, right? Sure, they blew up the Death Star, but doesn't mean there's not another Death Star. And Grand Admiral Thrawn,
Mhm.
yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. You were thinking about, like, there's somebody, and then like you said it. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly it, Joe. He's not the only one out there. There's others out there. There's other Admirals. Maybe not any other emperors, but those aren't entirely necessary.
Yeah, totally. The galaxy is big, and you can't say, "Well, I like this." You know what? Talk to fan Star Wars fan, bro. Just be happy. There's so much more Star Wars that you're getting, dude. When I was young, you asked us when did we fell in love with Star Wars. I never thought that we are gonna have this much Star Wars, let alone break off TV shows. You know what I mean? And so it's a good time to be Star Wars. Like that fandom. It's a good time, and no matter how bad it is, you think it is, just be grateful that we're getting them.
Well, I remember back in the day, it's like everybody's like, "Oh, are you Star Wars or Star Trek? Star Wars or Star Trek?" I drew a line in the sand. I was totally Star Wars. They had 3 movies and a holiday special that nobody really considered.
Mhm.
Star Trek has a vast history. They have books. There's so much. They have all the different fleets and different ships, everything. And I took the side that I took, and I wasn't going to be jump on a bandwagon. I started off liking Star Wars more first. I stayed there, and held out for the long game, and eventually got more. Was it great? It's right, you know, but it's still, it's cool. It gives the children, the younger people, a chance to relive what we lived through, and see it in a different way. Their Anakin is our Luke. You know what I mean? And no matter how much we hated 1, 2, and 3, those are somebody's first Star Wars. No matter how much we hated 7, 8, 9, those are somebody's first Star Wars. No matter how much we hated Boba Fett, and everybody loves Mandalorian, so we got no problem with that.
Over on Facebook, folks are making some excellent points. First
That's
of
right.
all, talking about the expanded universe, Marvel, I don't know if you'd really consider Marvel an expanded universe. Probably one of the first, if you want to talk about expanded universes. Then you also have, obviously DC tried an expanded universe. Horrible DC. And then, Sony's also tried expanded universes, and, that's been like hit or miss here or there, but there's so much source material, to your point, Alfonso. And it's excellent, such an excellent point. One of the Facebook users points out there was the Ewoks and droids cartoons as well. Honestly, you could bring those back and put them on Disney Plus as sort of like something new, because they exist.
No,
I think
no.
a kid that's the age of Alfonso's son would probably like to see droids or Ewoks or something like that. So yeah, excellent point. There is so much source material to use, and I feel like Star Wars is just overlooking it. Replica Pro Wrestling says, as a kid, I remember wondering what happened to episode 1, 2, and 3 back in the late 80s and 90s. So I'm grateful for what we can get. So yeah, to Joe's point, be grateful, bro, because growing up as kids, we didn't have anything. We had Ghostbusters 1 and 2. Never had a Ghostbusters 3. We had to watch the cartoon, okay? I know it's not exactly related, but we never got anything finished, That's what I'm saying.
Dude,
Yeah.
dude, we had TV shows where, like, the next season started, you're like, wait, what happened to the other character? There's a different main character.
Right.
It's like, what the hell happened, dude? And growing up, those TV series, it was like a time skip. Because you remember Airwolf?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember, like, dude, this show was dope. And then you don't watch it for a while, you come back, and then what happened to him, dude? He was supposed to go rescue his brother, and now he's flying, and now I'm like, what the heck just happened? And that's how it would happen when we were kids. It would no conclusion. Show gets canceled. There's no ending, nothing. And that was that.
Well, what about when we'd like miss an episode or two, and we're like, you know, there was no way to go back and figure out what the heck happened unless your
No,
friends
yeah.
remembered to recorded it. But
Yeah.
Yeah, times were hard. Times were hard.
It was
Not
hella
only did
hard,
we have,
man.
yeah, we didn't. Not only did we have to walk through the snow in order to get to school, but also our shows had no continuity.
None.
None.
except Robotech, but that was 3 different cartoons.
All
Yeah.
sewn together.
Yeah, I remember I was playing baseball then. I'd come home from practice. I'm like, what's this? This ain't Robotech. And then I started playing baseball, and then like you started watching, you're like, okay, it's a time skip.
One of the Facebook users does point out that the Ghostbusters cartoon was awesome because that's what we had. We made that our Ghostbusters 3, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what we all did. That's Ghostbusters
Mhm.
3 for us because we had to take what we could get.
Which Ghostbusters cartoon?
Not the
'Cause
one
there
by
was Ghostbusters.
Filmation. No, not the one by
no.
Filmation.
It was
Okay,
bad.
there's a really good episode of 10 Things You Should Know that Minty did, explaining why that Ghostbusters exists.
I remember watching it.
Yeah, so I'll just say this. That was one of those things where it's like, hey, we have this name, we're just going to use it. That's all it was.
Yeah.
They own the name first, so we don't even count that.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, look who's popping in. Better late than never. What's up, Amanda? Always watching. Thanks very much for watching the Nerd World Order broadcast. So, gentlemen, we were talking about before we deviated, which I've been known to do, so I apologize for that. We were talking about, the Jedis. We were talking about the relationship between Obi-Wan and Leia. However, we also need to talk those Inquisitors because Reva, not McIntyre, but Reva, was a really interesting character. She got a little heat online because racism. But I have to say that the Inquisitors really brought a new level to the show. I'm going to turn it over to you, Joe, because I think you're the most learned on the Inquisitors. What'd you think of them?
They were pretty good. I like, I know you probably dislike a lot of the Fast and the Furious movies, but Han, got to play the fifth brother, I think it was. Yeah, fifth brother. And I thought that was dope. Like you barely even knew it was him. And he was him. You're like, oh, dude, that's Han. So that was pretty cool seeing him in Inquisitor. And it's like when you watch the Rebels, you just knew he wasn't gonna die. Apparently, the Grand Inquisitor has 2 stomachs, and so that's how he's not able to die. And apparently, Reva can do something Qui-Gon didn't do, was get stabbed in the stomach and still live. And so that's another thing, bro. I'm like, how does she? You know what? The Grand Inquisitor, bro, got 2 stomachs. I get it, bro. One stomach is probably gone. He's still alive. But Reva, same thing as Qui-Gon, and Qui-Gon's like, he's the chosen one. Train him. Okay. And then he dies. But Reva, oh no, dude. She busted at Eminem. Guess who's back? Back again. Reva's back. For Anakin. It's just like, come on, bro. But apparently they were supposed to kill her off, but they rewrote it to where she still lives. Is what I'm hearing.
Really? That's interesting. Someone points out that they like the connection between the younglings who were killed by Vader and Reva. I think, was it Alfonso or Joe? Which one of you pointed that out? Yeah, Alfonso. He's like, that's her. You can see it. She got that big helmet on her head. You know who it is. Yeah. I felt like they telegraphed that one way too much.
Well, yeah, dude. With anything, it's so predictable now.
They're like, hey, let's focus in on this little black girl. It's like, we're doing it again. I'm like, oh, okay, Alfonso's right. That's Reva.
So did she get the exact same wound last time and then hide underneath the dead body? Or did she just not get hit at all and hide under the dead body?
I don't know. It doesn't really show it.
Right.
Yeah. And then somehow she was able to just hop off and jump on a spaceship and head down to Tatooine. I mean,
Yeah, that's
I
just
know.
lazy writing.
Yeah. You know, sometimes when you're watching a really good episode where people are using the force to throw rocks at each other, you got to overlook
Yeah.
stuff like that. Okay. When you're watching the best force slash lightsaber fight in the history of Star Wars, in the complete history, I'm talking the books that only Joe read, I'm talking the comic books that only I've read, I'm talking the cartoons that Joe watched for us because he knows I can't sit through anything. I'm talking the movies. That was, without a doubt, the best lightsaber fight in the history of Star Wars. I dare anyone to disagree, Derek Murray.
Why didn't Vader, when he was on top, dropping all the rocks on Ben Kenobi, say, "I got the high ground"? Why?
Because the writing couldn't be that lazy. Because everyone across the multiverse simultaneously thought that in their head. Every single person.
Everybody yelled out, "He's got the high ground." I heard a disturbance in the force. I said it out loud. I swear.
Yeah. So what did you guys think about that force fight? Hey, I'm jumping ahead again. I'm so excited about Darth Vader. I'm jumping ahead. Sorry.
No,
what'd you guys think of that fight? Yeah, I'm sorry.
The way they were, every time they showed a lightsaber, the way it illuminated the person's face gave it so much personality, so much gravity. You know, it was amazing. It was epic. You know, just pulling out the lightsaber, and then I saw something about how, you know, every time the light was on Ben, or Obi-Wan, it was blue, and then when it was on Vader, it was red. But when Obi-Wan cut the helmet in half, you know, it was red while he was talking, and then after a while, when he's like, "It's not your fault, Obi-Wan, that I killed me," you know, then his face turned blue from his reflection, you know, the light coming off his lightsaber, as if, you know, that was a little bit of the good in him. So I was like, "Oh, that's pretty sweet." But overall, I mean, the fight was just epic, man. It had rocks going everywhere, you know, just they're busting moves that you haven't seen before in Star Wars battles, and you're like, "That's some good stuff right there."
Right.
But what about you, Joe?
Yeah, it was dope, to your point. Like the different shades of the blue and the red was pretty dope. Like if Alan hasn't watched Rebels, so when Ahsoka fought Darth Vader,
Yeah.
she slashed one side of his mask. I want to say I get which one was mixed up. It's either the right side or the left side. And again, the same thing, like Obi-Wan and, you know, like, or not Obi-Wan, but Anakin's talking to her at the same time Vader is, like going back. And so she's like, well, truly, like she lost her friend, and just the tears, you know, like that she just lost, like not only her master but like her best friend. And then you flash forward, the same thing happened with Obi-Wan. He cut one of the sides off, and then he's looking at his best friend in tears, like, "Man, you're truly gone." And then you flash forward to Luke Skywalker was the only one to actually take off the whole mask, as opposed to like half and half like the other two. And so I thought that was pretty cool. You could just tell, like from the Ahsoka battle, which takes place after I want to say probably after Obi-Wan, but just through Obi-Wan and Ahsoka each trying to bring him back is what helped, because they both felt like he still has some good in him. And those fights between Vader help the light side still like remain within him, to when Luke Skywalker does fight him, it's easy for him to say, "Hey, look, dude, there's still some good in you. You can come back." But it's just funny, like anyone Kylo Ren's the same way, man. They just do mass killings, bro. But hey, you know, they can come back to the light side and everything's good. It's like, who cares if they kill millions? It's okay.
You know, one of the folks on Facebook points out that the episode 3 battle is the best. Up to this point, it was, because that was also a really good battle. But, you know, I'm just going to have to feel like this one was just on a completely different level. I feel like it's the first time that the Force was used so effectively as a weapon, you know, and just the choreography that went into that lightsaber battle. It's like a back and forth, and they're moving, and, you know, it feels like they're two skilled fighters. Whereas before, have you ever watched like a sword fight and you felt like they were aiming for each other's swords? That's what I always feel like when I watch a lightsaber battle. Like,
Right.
hit my sword here. Now I'll spin. You hit, this felt like if someone like moved a little bit the wrong way, they would have got gaffled by that by the lightsaber. So yeah, I love this one.
Yeah, I had the same thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's all you, Alfonso.
Honestly, I had the same thought because it's like in episode 3, it was a super sweet lightsaber battle, but the problem was Obi-Wan wasn't Obi-Wan, so it was a one-sided fight. You know, he held up a little, but it was a one-sided fight. The beauty of the final season finale, they were both firing on all cylinders, so they were just, and it was nice.
But here's the thing, like Obi-Wan is dope. If you watch all the fights, he fights the main bosses. And like he downplays on how good he is because he really doesn't go around saying, "Hey, I'm dope," but he always downplays it. But I'm gonna say Obi-Wan kind of tapped into the like a Mace Windu gray Jedi kind of thing, because if you looked, he was doing some things, where he was like, because a Sith will always use trees, rocks to do something to hit you, right? You never, ever see Jedis do that. Jedis do the Force where they hit you with the Force and they throw you back, but they never really use things around you. If you notice, that's what Obi-Wan was doing. You'll never see Jedis put up a bunch of boulders, boulders right there and throw them at a freaking Sith. They just don't do that. They don't really quick use a brick to trip a Sith Lord. You know what I mean? So like he was borderline gray Jedi mode a little bit. You know what I mean? Like tapping into it like a Mace Windu type of thing. Where if you look at the way Obi-Wan fights, he doesn't fight like that.
No.
In any of the episodes or the Clone Wars, the cartoons, he doesn't fight like that. He just uses he maybe use like a little Force, hit, but he uses his lightsabers. He really doesn't use the environments shooting at Darth Vader. And like people were probably upset just because like Darth Vader did lose, but what people kind of forget is like he does still have some light side in him, and even though he wants to fight Obi-Wan and kill him, in the back of his eye he still has some Anakin's still trying to fight for like, hey, we don't have to do this, kind of where Vader's taking control. Vader hasn't really taken control fully yet, and fighting Obi-Wan just opens up old wounds. And just like I think him apologizing to him and saying that's his fault, because ultimately, think about this, bro. You kind of almost blame Obi-Wan, because check this out, like because we watching the episodes 1 and 2 is kind of fresh in my mind. So like he looks as Obi-Wan as his father figure, right? Obi-Wan never saw him that way. Obi-Wan saw him as a Padawan, and then when he grew up, he considered him as his like a friend. Where the whole time Anakin doesn't have any father figure or mother figure, and that's what he's looking for. And I think if like that's what's wrong with the Jedis. I think if you can't love anybody, you can't be attachment, and they always end up going to the dark side because of that. And so like I think if they didn't have that, who knows? Maybe they won't. I don't know. Maybe they don't go to the dark side. But if Obi-Wan was more of a father figure to him, like he is with Leia and Luke, as they get older, and Leia when she was young, if he would have did that with, I think that's, and probably at the time he learned his mistake, but I think if he did that with Anakin growing up, he, like that could have helped divert, Anakin's path, because the whole time he's like, he's not the father figure, and all he's doing, like if you watch the past episodes, even in Clone Wars and episodes 1 and 2, he's always like, you're not doing this right. You should be doing this. How come you did this? You're not listening to you. That just fuels someone that's already, and the Jedis are just dumb, dude. Like, okay, so they say Jedis are stronger than, like Sith, but that's not even the case, because the Sith can block who they are, and a Jedi can't see that, but the Sith can see all the Jedis. It's just annoying.
Yeah, Ahsoka had some pretty good thoughts when she started talking. I mean, I saw some of the Rebel stuff, but when she started talking about how the Sith suck, Jedi kind of suck too. But this is what I do, and is she a gray Jedi? Is that what she is, or a white Jedi, or what?
She well, she doesn't technically anything. She just walked away from it.
Yeah, and she made valid points. So if anybody gets a chance, go back, watch those episodes of Rebels where Vader and her fight, because like I said, she brings up some good points.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, as you were talking about the fight scene between Obi-Wan and Vader, and how it's something as far as using the Force to throw rocks, he never did it before, and he's never done it since.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to ask myself, is that lazy writing? It's like, oh wow, this is cool, but it's completely out of character, right? That would be like, and then Alan dunks to save like to save the Lakers and they win the game. You know, I ain't dunking on nobody, right? If you wrote a story where I dunked on someone, Joe would be like, lazy writing, go sit down, right? Because that's never gonna happen. So he's never done it before. He never did it since. It's just completely out of left field. So as much as I love it, it's like, wow, it's some really bad writing because it's completely out of character.
But that's what I mean. He's teetering the gray Jedi.
Yeah. I know you're trying to hit me with the gray Jedi comment because I love some gray Jedis. Like, that's my thing, right? I consider myself a gray Jedi. Like, I'm going to walk that line. I'm going to try to do right. But hey, sometimes you got to dunk on fools, you know?
Yeah. Well, because if he doesn't teeter that line, dude, Vader smashes him.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I can see your point. I just, I feel like if it was addressed, a lot of things you talk about, it's kind of like, how people get mad because they do all this fan theories before a movie comes out. And then when it comes out, they're like, nothing happened like I wanted it to, right? Well, this is kind of the opposite because in order to explain things away, you're like, hey, if he would have just been a father figure to Anakin, then maybe Anakin didn't go to the dark side. So as you're saying that, I'm thinking to myself, and that's why he treated Luke and Leia the way that he did, as more of a father figure. But I fanfic that in my head, right? And then you're like, hey, he'd have probably died if he didn't go gray. Yeah, maybe. But you know what? We're filling in those holes ourselves. So I get what you're saying and you're making sense, but we're not the writers. And we're making this show better by filling in the blanks for them.
Can we get the residuals from that then?
Where's that movie check?
Yes, sir.
And keep in mind too, even Gandalf went gray Jedi. Oh wait,
no, he was white. Just like the Millennium Falcon. I was watching that the other night. I'm like, I don't know. It looks gray to me.
It's white. It's off white.
It looks off gray.
Man. Hey, before we get too far off topic, because we do stray. I do want to talk about. It's funny because after that battle, didn't it seem like the show was over? I'm like, what the heck's going on? So I paused to check it out. We still have 15 minutes left in that show. I'm like, what the heck? So then all of a sudden, Reva shows up bleeding. Well, I guess she's not really bleeding because she'd be a cauterized wound, right? So she shows up holding her belly, taking somebody's water, and then she goes and finds Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru who are waiting for her, like the thugs they are. Man, we never knew they could fight like that. They took out a couple stormtroopers before they got toasted. They had to have. But yeah, tell us a little bit about that, Joe. What do you think?
I think you shouldn't have brought that part up because you're having an epic fight with Obi-Wan and Vader, and then you go to that, which was pointless. I don't even know why they had that in there. I'm just like, can you just go back to what I want to see Obi fight Vader? Because I was just like, bro, I'm not, dude. You're a trained Sith, and you can't take care of to an uncle and an auntie.
She was pretty injured. Injured.
Dude, it doesn't matter, bro. Like you have a lightsaber and you're getting your butt kicked. It just does. You don't need that in there, man. It's like, well, they sit in their writing room and they're like this. Hey guys, we need to fill maybe 2 minutes. What's a perfect way, to make the battle longer? Oh, hey, how about we do the Reva fights the uncle and the auntie, and Luke runs away. That's an excellent idea. Let's do that. It's just, come on, man. Like, I don't want to see that, bro.
You know, somebody was like, he was on Friday Night Lights. He needs more lines.
Yeah.
I agree. I was making excuses for that fight in my head as I was watching it. Like Alfonso said, oh, she's injured, which is why, you know, sometimes she's a really good fighter, but now because she's injured, you know, aunt and uncle are just over here like handling her, you know.
And Baru hit her with a left hook, man. I was like, dang, that was worse than that chop that the one chick did on the stormtrooper.
Bro,
like,
I would have been cool if Obi-Wan would have made it there before she even attempted to do anything.
Right.
And they had like a little tiny lightsaber fiend or maybe some dialogue.
Mhm.
That would have made more sense to me than this bularky, lazy writing scene that they just put together, obviously, because they didn't want to kill her.
You know, I did like the way Obi-Wan's like, you know, I'm going to go in. I'm going to give myself up. Well, what about your weapons? I don't need my weapons. I have my weapon, and it was Reva to take out, you know, Vader. And, you know, something more like that would have probably went over a little bit better. But, you know, Uncle and Aunt Beru, they don't mess around.
Yeah, but they don't know how to fight fire.
Right. Yeah.
Toasty! No,
Toasty!
So as we're rounding the corner on the broadcast, gentlemen, there's a sort of a argument out there. Should there be another season? Should they let this stand by itself? What do you guys think? I'll start off with you, X-Man. Do you want to see another season of Obi-Wan?
Of course I do. I want to see 3 more seasons of Obi-Wan. I want to see him over there hanging out with Tusken Raiders and doing some of that, you know, that sand artwork that they do. You know, I don't care. I want to see Womp Raps getting shot. I want to see him seeing R2D2 pretending he doesn't know him. I want to see everything. You know, hanging out with Uncle Owen. You know, sharing a beer, having some time with Luke, give him another toy. I'm okay with that. Crazy old Ben. I don't know. Yeah, it could be a bit much, but I'm gonna watch it.
Joe, go ahead and disagree.
Nah, I could watch another Obi-Wan series. I would be okay. I know people are probably not going to agree with me, but I would be okay if Obi-Wan trained Reva. You know what I mean? Like a few episodes, like she comes and he trains her how to be a Jedi, a true Jedi. You know, from a Sith. You know, from being a true Jedi instead of being a Sith. I'd be okay with that. But there's so much things he could do. See, that's another thing, bro. Just reboot the damn thing, bro. Just have Filoni and John just reboot it, and then you can just do whatever you want from there.
You know, one thing that they did miss out on that we're going to need is one more season, because we need to have a reason for Vader to stop looking for Obi-Wan. Because we didn't get that.
I think you kind of did, because you remember, because at the end Palpatine was eluding, like, so you still have feelings for it, you know what I mean? So to prove like he's you know, like he doesn't care about his master, because basically Palpatine's like, you're focusing too much on this dude.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about this dude. Why are you focusing on this dude? Because you miss this guy? You think he's your master? And so to prove like this is just us making up stuff again, but just to prove like him not caring about Ben, just let it go. He's got the Inquisitors. He's got more things to worry about. Because if you remember, he spent a good, and who knows the time gap, but he spent a good amount of time in Rebels.
Mm.
And Rebels comes before this?
Yeah, it's kind of like in between. I think it's 5 years before Return of the Jedi, and it ends right when they were on. Well, one of the characters was on. What's the Ewoks world again? I can't remember the name.
Endor.
Endor, yeah. I was thinking Andor. Is that the name of the series, Andor?
No, Andor's the guy.
No, okay. But yeah, it ends on there where she helps. Because with that, everybody was happy because by that they all became canon into the Star Wars universe with the end episode where the final pirate was at the end, like on Endor getting ready to help on the last battle. And then after that, like the whole series became canon.
Yeah. Interesting. Gentlemen, I don't need to see another season of Obi-Wan. Not that I didn't enjoy it, but I often have this concern that by putting something in the middle of something that's already established, you're just going to mess it up.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this went out okay. Joe's pointed out a few, few things that are a little bit off, but we can overlook that. We can fanfic it out. But I feel like the more we try to insert stuff right in the middle of other stuff, it's just eventually we're just going to mess up. And let's face it, let's stop a moment and act like no one's listening and be honest. This show was saved by the last episode, okay? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So, do we really want to sit through 5 more episodes of what the heck is this nonsense, followed by 1 episode of woo? I'm glad they pulled that off.
It's my bread and butter.
well, that's what I mean. You could, if you did a second season with him training Riva, you don't have to worry about that contradicting anything, or you don't have to have anything connect to that.
I would say that the toxic fans then ask, well, where's Riva? How come we never heard of Riva before? And then we have to go into this whole explanation, which will ultimately not make sense, why we never heard of Riva before. The only way you can pull that off is to Rogue One it. Okay? She's got to die in a blaze of glory in a secret mission. Okay? That's it.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, we still have Andor coming. We have Ahsoka. What other isn't there another Star Wars one coming out? Like series or movie? I don't know. Well, at least we have those two. Oh, well, Bad Batch already happened. Is there something like that too? Well, but anyways, we still have those two, and they can fill in any of those blanks in any of those shows because I mean, Andor is going to take place before Rogue One, right? Because he has to because he's still alive.
Well, because the Rebels was taken mostly on Lothar, I think it is. Yeah, Lothar. Like basically, they were fighting around Lothar, like that planet. So I want to say, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Lothar. But that was around the 5 years, like Empire Strikes Back, bro. When they were fighting Jabba the Hutt, they were over there doing their thing. So you could do something like that with Riva. Yeah, where's she at? Oh, she's been there the whole time. She doesn't. You don't have again. They don't necessarily have to be in the same planet system because the galaxy is so big. They can be anywhere.
Yeah, I can accept that. They can say long, long ago in a galaxy far, far away. But to my other right, that galaxy, not that galaxy. Yeah, they could do that,
Easily, like they did in episode 9. Remember where they went into the outer rim, an uncharted galaxy?
Yeah. They were in the uncharted galaxy, and guess who they ran into? Riva. You guys may not know who she is, but there she is, right? Yeah. But I'm going to say that as much as I enjoyed the totality of the show, let's leave it alone, Disney. You pulled it off. Robert Rodriguez needs to look at this final episode and be like, oh.
Coming to America. Aha. Aha.
Yeah. Let's see here, gentlemen. Before we go, I just want to give shout outs to the folks who watched and listened live. I guess you got to watch it live. I guess you could turn off the screen and just listen. But then you'd miss our charming faces. Can you have a charming face? I don't know. Alfonso has a charming face. So shout out to everyone who watched Replica Pro Wrestling, best code name ever. Then we had Sexbot, who offered us the naked XYZ cheap sex. So yeah, shout out to Sexbot. Like I said before, you are not the droid that I'm looking for.
Bro, how many times do you block him? Every time I looked over, I'm like, back again. Back
That was-
again. It was like, just change the name to Riva.
That was C3P. Oh.
Yeah. Oh.
Then we're going to shout out Derek Murray, who has been on the broadcast several times. Always a pleasure having Derek on. Love reading your NerdBot articles. Not the same as Sexbot articles, but you might get paid a little more if you started doing the Sexbot articles, Derek. And then, of course, a few Facebook users popped in there. Thank you to everyone who watches us on Facebook. And if you're not listening and watching live, please listen to us live. We normally come on 8:00. Normally for late, it's because I'm like pouting about something, and then like Joe and Alfonso calm me down, and then we go on. So if we're supposed to start at 8 and it's like 8:30, 8:45, it's because I needed my binky.
For a great Jedi, you really Kylo Winish.
I'll accept that one. I'll accept that one all day. Maybe I'm a Sith and I never knew it. And of course, we got to thank Amanda for popping on, listening to the broadcast, loyal. Thanks, Amanda, for always listening to the show. Even if you do arrive like 35, 45 minutes late every time, it's okay. And then you blame YouTube like, oh, my YouTube didn't work right. You see, the way my YouTube is set up is it notifies me once the show is over that you were on. Whatever.
It could have been the McDonald's Wi-Fi. Who knows? That's not Amanda.
And with that, ladies, gentlemen, and knights of the Nerd World Order, this concludes this episode of the Nerd World Order broadcast. I am NWO.
We are NWO.
Nerds Redefined. Booyah! And we out.